There's not much of a future here.
The border between Mexico and the United States, it's this. This is it.
Aquí en este solar donde yo vivo, aquí donde realmente casi donde estoy parado mataron a una persona.
It's kind of difficult because of the jobs. There's not too many here in Escobares, so we're kind of going down.
Tienes que salir fuera de aquí para poder agarrar un trabajo bueno. Yo tengo 7 años trabajando por una compañía de basura. Es un trabajo un poco pesado. No me importa que sea la basura, no me da pena. Crece, no quiere decir por los negocios, o crece a veces por la mafia, hay mucha delincuencia. Aquí en este solar donde yo vivo, aquí donde realmente casi donde estoy parado mataron a una persona.
This is the border between the United States and Mexico. See how peaceful it is now? You can hear the birds chirping. It wasn't always the border. It is now because of some treaty that happened somewhere.
If these areas vote red, arguably against their best interests, does that indicate a failure of the opposing party to provide adequate aid, or is it something else? Yes. I believe in changing what I can. Okay? And I've already given up on changing the Republican Party. I know that they're not going to change. But at least I can hold Democrats accountable to actually follow through on the values that they espouse. And if they don't do that, then I need to inform people that they are lying and they're cheating and they're simply acting like they're progressives. And in a lot of cases, Democrats simply only aesthetically appeal to progressive legislation and progressive policies and progressive beliefs and never engage in following through. Okay? But that is true. I think that the reason why a lot of these areas that are completely broken down, the reason why they are constantly finding themselves in the throes of reactionary politicians is because their outreach is just simply better. Their outreach is better. They do a better job with appealing to their sensibilities. And the opposition party does not do anything for them, doesn't say anything to them, doesn't actually fucking follow through on any of the promises that could help them. First, you have to start by telling them, and it's an uphill battle. Okay? It is an uphill battle. I will not lie to you. But first, you have to start off by describing to them why these progressive policies would be helpful. Then and this is a year-round initiative. This is not something that you do every 4 fucking years when you remember that poor people exist in this border town. Okay? This is something that got to do all the time. Republicans don't fucking campaign every 4 years. They campaign year-round. They never stop campaigning. That's why when you look at like QAnon rallies, like I do, for example, when you look at flyers on Facebook for QAnon rallies, you'll see them talking about like, you'll see Republicans talking about like, pedophile Democrats and whatnot, and that's what they're rallying for. And then all of a sudden you have like a fucking, comptroller for the 11th district or some shit that's also at that rally. And what is she talking about? School choice. The fuck do those hogs know about school choice? Why are they talking about school choice? Because they're doing the fucking work. Because the Republicans are literally constantly educating their voters on what the talking points are. They're constantly educating their voters on what the actual policies that they should be on board with are. They do this by tagging along the reactionary, psychopathic QAnon conspiracies. They will even use QAnon rallies to agitate and advocate for the Republican Party and the Republican Party's horrible policy agenda. Democrats don't do anything compared to that. Like, Democrats do not do anything that is near that. Do you understand?
In our history, and every time you have a border, you're going to have problems because
this area votes Democrat. I'm just using this as an example. First of all, a lot of the border towns in Texas literally lowered their support for the Democratic Party with Donald Trump as president. So remember that next time you say some shit. And the reason for that is because, one, Texas's Latino outreach is remarkable. It's literally at the forefront of the Republican Party's Latino outreach. They've been experimenting for a very long time. And you can very easily say, well, that's because Latinos in Texas and in Arizona or in other parts of the country are actually very socially conservative. True. Especially older Latinos are socially conservative. Except they also are very, very economically progressive. They are in favor of big government. Latinos, Hispanics in the United States of America, with the exception of Cubans and some living in like wealthier neighborhoods, are one of the biggest advocates for more government spending, for more social safety nets. Literally, straight up. So if you don't hit them on, if you don't offer them something, and the other side is like, you know, hammering on the social conservatism. And by the way, if you don't believe me, you can ask those in the Texas Republican Party that are leading the outreach. This is not my take. This is takes backed by empirical evidence. Okay, numerous studies conducted on Latino voters and their demographic affinity patterns, like their affinities towards certain policy positions. But also, this is something that Republicans constantly talk about, where in order to get Latinos to avoid the interest that they have in like social safety nets expanding, they only hammer on the Catholicism. They only hammer on abortion. They only hammer on social conservatism. Okay? But Democrats don't do the opposite. Democrats only talk about how, you know, well, Trump is bad because he said Mexicans are rapists. And for some people, that works. Of course, for some Latinos, that works. Obviously, that is going to work. But a lot of fucking Latinos don't consider themselves to be, and we already know this, Latino first. They consider themselves to be American. You know? And that's normal and it's understandable. Second generation, third generation immigrants completely assimilate to the culture. So they fucking are like, yeah, well, okay, Trump is saying, you know, a lot of racist shit about Latinos, but, you know, I live in these communities and there are some fucking fuckhead Latinos here. And, you know, some of them do need to see the long dick of the law. It's the same with, and it's not dissimilar to like older black voters in southern areas and their predisposition towards conservative politics. Okay. Then there's also white Hispanics that have different approaches to. The Hispanic and Latino voter bloc is impossible to comprehend as a monolith, barring certain things that I already mentioned. Right? So you can't just win the Latino vote by saying like, well, Trump is racist. And that's why you have to vote for us. It doesn't fucking work that way. And it's not even going to be able to work that way for the black vote as well. And the black vote does actually approach monolithic status in many ways, historically speaking. And even that's going away. If you look at younger black voters do not have party loyalty in the same way that older black voters do. So if you want to keep getting these people to vote for you, you got to, one, make it easier for them to be able to vote. And two, offer them something beyond, well, the other side is way more fucking racist. Okay? Yabancıysan neden ismin Hasan abi? Bilmem abi. Neden olabilir sence? Bir düşün bakayım. Biraz bir düşün, belki anlarsın. Ayrıca yabancıysam nasıl sana İngilizce yazmazsan nasıl sana cevap vereceğim abi? Huh? I can't believe there's still fucking Turks in here that are like, what the fuck? Why is this guy's name HasanAbi? But they write it in Turkish. And if I was actually a foreigner who didn't speak Turkish, then how the fuck would I understand what you're saying in the chat? Especially if it's a question you're directing at me. I live in Texas and we get a ton of conservative transplants in blue states. They've been talking about how they're going to lose the state to next generation Texas natives who will vote blue. We're a threat. Yeah, the irony of Texas voting is if you look at Texas voter patterns, For example, with the Beto O'Rourke versus Ted Cruz race, where Ted Cruz ended up narrowly defeating Beto O'Rourke, native Texans voted for Beto O'Rourke, whereas transplant Texans, like first-generation Texans, literally are more conservative than the native Texans. It's immigration into Texas from other states, other conservatives from other states that are coming into Texas that are fucking up the Texan vote. Nice snipe. He didn't even tag you. That's a no scope. Oh, you already know, brother. Does HasanAbi mean Hasan streaming? Google Translate kind of helped? No, it didn't. It didn't help you. Anladım abi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Abi cevap verecek misin diye merak ettim. Verdim işte. I started this whole stun lock, so I apologize to chat for this, but you never actually answered my point. Why should the Dems run more progressives when they are such a small caucus right now? Well, they were a nearly non-existent caucus, and they are becoming a more sizable caucus now. Things take time. This kind of growth, especially when you adjust it to the current political climate and the opinion that most politicians had towards socialism, the negative association that they have with it after years and years of Red Scare, means that like there is a pretty big fucking progressive wave occurring currently. Okay? And the reason why I say Dems should run more progressives when there's such a small caucus is because Democrats running progressives in more progressive districts will have a similar effect to Republicans running more conservatives in conservative districts. Okay? It shifts the Overton window back to the moderate position actually being in the center or hopefully in the center left. How do you not recognize this? Because if Democrats keep running right and Republicans certainly keep running further and further right, all you're going to have is a more right-wing country. And I think some liberals like that. I think some liberals want to have the moral, I guess, the moral higher, the moral upper hand, the moral advantage, right? By saying that they're a liberal and they want to vote Democrat, while simultaneously the moral high ground, yes, sorry, that's the word I was looking for. The moral high ground to say like, oh, well, I'm voting for Democrat, so I'm a good person, and Republicans are bad persons, while also wanting to vote for conservative fucking ideas. Native Texan here, grew up on a ranch, but realized Republicans do literally nothing for ranchers. Started down that route, and then how do so many fucking Texans watch me do the Hank Piker accent? I'll never understand. I feel like it's got to be triggering. But then again, Irish people watch me fucking do top of the hour every hour. Started down that route, and now I am in a Democratic Socialist with both my parents on Social Security and begging me for money every month because they did income tax evasion. Which, by the way, it is top of the hour, every hour. Time for a 60-second ad break, ladies and gentlemen.
People on this side are going to say it's illegal.
And if you no longer want to see the ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5. Or you can do it for free. And if you wonder how you can do it for free, well, I got an answer for you, brother. You can do it for free with your Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon account to your Twitch account. You get one free Twitch Prime ad. This way you can avoid the ads. Here's the ad break.
This and this and that. And the people on the other side are going to say, well, it's illegal to bring those things over here. This is what it's like to live here on the border.
Escobares.
Aquí se convirtió en ciudad, pero pues mi vida no ha cambiado mucho, ¿no? Pues hay mucha necesidad en esta área y mucha delincuencia. Se oyen tiros, así, ¿verdad? Balazos, balacera.
Aquí no hay cambios, aquí lo que todos se están quejando, no hay trabajo. No hay que comer, pero gracias a Dios que tengo una familia que me han dado de comer.
The employment opportunities are very limited. We don't have any other big industries here. We hope someday somebody will see the opportunity to come here and set up a big company of some sort where our people can have a job. That is our biggest dream.